Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for this webinar. I am here with my colleague, Fahim Javed, and today he's going to go over giving you some strategies for the PL-300 exam and also give you some tips and tricks for working with Microsoft Power BI data. And hopefully we'll be sending you on your way to being an analyst very soon. And we will start here in just a moment. Just wanted to take a moment to welcome you on behalf of Excel instructor-led training. My name is Anne, and just in case you didn't know who we are, Excel is made up of 3 different brands: Accelerate, ExitCertified, and WebAge Solutions. And among the 3 of us, we have over 60 years of IT training experience, which is great news for you, because we have all the access to share resources, courses, certifications, and instructors. And it doesn't matter which one of us you contact, we'll get you to the right place to get your training needs taken care of. But we do have little nuances. Accelerate looks at custom courses for teams. ExitCertified has all the vendor authorized certification courses. And WebAge does a lot of upskilling programs for entire organizations. We teach a lot of technologies, including data science, Python, data visualization, IBM, data engineering, machine learning, and of course, Microsoft. We are Microsoft partners, so we can bring you all the certification courses. We also have in-house Microsoft courses that we develop ourselves, but we do, of course, teach a lot of Power BI and obviously PL-300. And speaking of PL-300, we do have a public online course coming up. It's running on December 9th to 11th. It is live and instructor-led, hands-on. So you'll get all the labs and an instructor to answer your questions. And the good news is if you're free December 9th through 11th anyway, and you wanted to take the course, this one will be 60% off. You just put in the promo code SAVE60. I will put that URL in the chat. I know it's a bit long, so I don't expect you to jot it down. And then, if you're interested, you can go ahead and register. If that course is not exactly what you're looking for, or you need another date, don't worry, you're still in luck with a promo. You can use Train25 and get 25% off all of other training. So that would be private, customized training, public online training, self-paced training. So with that, let's meet Fahim. If you have not already had the pleasure of having him in a class or seeing his last webinar, he did a really good one on Microsoft Fabric. So I'll put that one in the chat too. You might be interested in looking at that one. That was, I think, back in June. And maybe you've had him as a trainer before. He does teach a ton of Microsoft courses because he is a Microsoft certified trainer. He's got a ton of experience in business intelligence, Power BI, data analytics, Copilot, Gen AI, Microsoft Fabric. The one really cool thing about Fahim too is if you get him on the phone and you're not exactly sure what you or your team needs in terms of training, he is really great at pinpointing what Microsoft classes you might need and then saying, okay, you could take this course and this module and mix it with this course or this module to get you some private training. And of course, he also teaches probably all of our Microsoft Power BI courses, including PL-300, and he's got tons of experience. You probably won't be able to stump him on a question, but you can try in the chat. Just kidding, Fahim. All right, so with that, let me pass it over to Fahim, and I will just stop my share. And Fahim, you can take it away.
Thank you, Anne. Really appreciate the intro stuff. Okay, so greetings, everyone. Those who know me, awesome. Those who don't, Anne has already introduced me. So overall, I do teach quite a few courses. I also develop various courses as well. Like the most recent course I developed was on Copilot for Power BI. Like these days, you can speed up your report designing, dashboard designing, and whatnot by using Copilot. So I ended up developing a code for our organization, and it's available, so we can point out what's the course number and outline and whatnot. All righty. So most of you most likely joined this session for Power BI certification and whatnot. So yes, we will talk about the certification process and whatnot. But before that, we will also look at what exactly this PL-300 stuff is. because that is the actual certification course number. And it does have various requirements, and you want to be aware of those requirements. You want to know the end-to-end process and whatnot. So here we obviously just have around an hour or so. So obviously we cannot really go through every possible scenario that you might end up encountering as part of the certification exam. What I'll do is I'll just prepare you like what your expectations should be. And then after that, we do have the PL-300 course available. You can choose to register for that course, and that's where we talk about the certification process in more detail. Okay, so overall, today's agenda is to talk about PL-300, which is a Power BI Data Analyst Associate certification exam. And it has had various iterations, like back in the day, it was 20778, then it became DA100, now it's PL300, and it's also actually becoming a part of something called Fabric, which is DP600 and whatnot. So overall, in this session, we will talk about Power BI Data Analyst Associate, PL300. We will talk about what is the overall BI business intelligence process. What is the Power BI ecosystem, what software is available as part of Power BI and whatnot, what is the overall process, and definitely I'll add a bunch of exam-oriented stuff as well throughout this presentation. So overall, those who are here just for the exam, you'll notice that I've added quite a few bits and pieces all over the place, like as part of different slides, where I'll talk about the exam process, and also towards the end of the presentation, I'll talk about the exam process in slightly more detail. And those who don't even know what is this exam or certification stuff, you're here mostly for Power BI. Awesome, you'll still get a lot of stuff out of this particular webinar. And after that, you can choose to take our PL300 course that we are offering later next month. Okay, so this is the overall agenda. Then let's first of all talk about PL300. So PL300 is just the name of the certification exam, and Microsoft offers an official course, not just to prepare for the exam, but also to become functional data analysts. So at work, if you have the need to analyze your data, create dashboards, impress your managers, your executives, and whatnot with fancy dashboards and be able to make decisions, you can choose to take this PL300 course, even just to become functional data analysts. And you can also choose to write the certification exam after taking the course or after knowing enough stuff about this PL300 course. So overall, this is basically about Power BI Data Analyst Associate sort of a certification exam / being functional data analysts as well. So overall, the exam, or for that matter, the course talks about data preparation. So around 25 to 30% of the content is based on data preparation, and that is both for the course itself and also the exam. And then we also have another section on data modeling. So again, we have 25 to 30% of the content related to this area. Then data visualization / data analysis, creating interactive reports, using drill down, drill through, page navigation, slicers for data filtration and whatnot, and using a bunch of visualizations. So that amounts to around 25 to 30% as well. And then we also have this brief section on report management, data management, or data flow / data set management, along with securing Power BI infrastructure as well. So that amounts to around 15 to 20%. So that is the overall breakdown of this PL300 course. And definitely, if you have any other custom requirements, like if you don't see any topic here, for example, Power BI for administrators. Administration-wise, there's lots of stuff involved, like tenant management and whatnot. So we do have custom courses based on Power BI for admin sort of area as well. So we have it for a Copilot for Power BI so that you can speed up your report designing, your dashboard designing and whatnot by using Copilot for Power BI. So we do have several other courses available, and you can always get in touch with us. You can always let us know what your exact requirements are, and we can always fine tune different courses, offer you a very customized experience to you, so that you get what you really want. Otherwise, as far as the official PL-300 stuff is concerned, it contains these topics. And before I jump into the certification area again, and I talk about what you can expect as part of the exam and whatnot, let's quickly talk about BI. So in Power BI, the term BI, so typically in regular courses, we have very engaging kind of sort of sessions and whatnot, where I encourage people to pitch in, and I ask lots of questions and whatnot. But here we have just a brief webinar. So I'll just briefly mention things on my side for now. So overall, in Power BI, the term BI stands for business intelligence. And it's all about going from raw data, like Excel, CSV, SQL Server, Oracle. You can have more advanced data sources such as Fabric, Databricks, Synapse. You can have, let's say, even Salesforce and whatnot. So you can have any type of raw data, and our goal is to be able to make decisions. So your audience, like maybe as a data analyst, maybe you have managers, you have executives, you have decision makers and whatnot. So they will have different questions. So who, what, where, when, why, how. So in terms of sales, who bought the products? What products got sold, where they got sold, how they got sold, when they got sold, and whatnot. So your overall goal is to go from raw data to be able to make well-informed decisions. So this is basically the overall process, and Power BI lets us implement this process. So the PL-300 course slash certification exam, it basically expects us to know this end-to-end process. Everything that's involved in between, like going from raw data to different other stages, and eventually be able to make decisions and whatnot. That is typically the expectation as part of the PL-300 course, as well as the certification exam. So keeping this in mind, that business intelligence is an end-to-end process, Power BI, it offers us with all of the necessary tool sets that we can use to implement this process. So here we have Power BI Desktop, which lets us design our reports. Like you can import your data, clean it up, shape it, transform it. You can call it data wrangling. And then we can also visualize data. We can even model our data and whatnot. And then eventually, once you are done with the designing process, you will want to share the reports with other people like managers, decision makers, executives, and whatnot. And for that, you'll end up publishing or uploading or deploying your reports. And then you will end up creating your dashboards. You can create your scorecards, metrics, key performance indicators, and whatnot. You can also distribute your reports in the form of applications, Power BI apps. So again, for Power BI apps, we have a custom course available, but even in PL-300, we briefly touch on that area. So overall, the goal is to go from some report to some published web page kind of thing, where we are able to see our reports in the form of dashboards, metrics, or key performance indicators, or scorecards, and whatnot. And this is where we end up involving this Power BI service component. So the online website where you are uploading your report, that is known as Power BI service. And then you can also view your reports slash dashboards from your mobile devices as well. If you have a cell phone, you have a tablet, you can choose to view your reports even from there as well. And in more advanced cases, you can also integrate other Power Platform technologies like Power Apps, Power Automate, and whatnot. And you can choose to take actions directly from your report. So you see a report, you can click a button, it can take some action. Like maybe it can send a request to your order fulfillment department and whatnot. So whatever the scenario might be, you can choose to click some button and you can trigger some Power Automate based flow as well if needed. So overall, the Power BI ecosystem, it includes every necessary tool that we usually require in order to implement this end-to-end BI process. And yes, PL-300, both the course as well as certification exam, it usually covers this end-to-end process. And if you talk about the end-to-end process in slightly more detail, we have lots of stages. Every person, every company, every book usually ends up using a slight variation of this diagram, but overall, you will end up having these stages. So you'll want to connect to your data source first. So for example, you can have your CSV, Excel, you can have SQL Server, Oracle, you can have Databricks, you can have Fabric, Synapse, sort of data warehouses or lake houses and whatnot. So you can connect to any data source, and then you can clean up your data, which we will see in just a bit. And I'll talk about what you can expect as part of the certificate exam. And then you'll want to perform a bit of data modeling. Again, we will see this in just a bit. Visualize your data, create reports, share your reports by uploading them to Power BI service. Then create your dashboards that can be viewed by your executives, managers, and whatnot to make decisions. And these dashboards can be shared with other users, like with managers, executives. Plus, you can bundle up all of your relevant reports and dashboards in the form of Power BI applications, Power BI apps, basically. And then rinse and repeat. So people will use your reports / dashboards. They will make decisions. They will ask you to modify your reports. You will want to connect to some additional data sources, clean it up, model it, visualize it, and whatnot. So you'll end up having this endless kind of cycle, iterative kind of cycle, where you keep on refining your reports. So keeping this in mind, that we have this end-to-end process, exam-wise. So those who are here mostly for the certificate exam, so like we previously covered, you overall have these areas. If I be lazy and grab a quick screenshot of this part. Okay, and then go back to this one. Okay, so overall, you can see that we have 4 different areas. And the first area here is prepare the data. So data preparation-wise, 25 to 30%, almost 1/4 or close to 1/3 of the exam is typically related to this area. Again, if you're not here for the exam, you can also just take the PL-300 course to be a functional data analyst so that you can always just create your reports, dashboards, and whatnot, and follow some best practices and whatnot. So overall, data preparation-wise, you're able to perform various operations, and these are typically the expectations. So you'll want to be aware of what are the different data sources available to us, what data source to select, what's the difference between direct query, import, and we have another thing as well called hybrid. So we have different modes available, direct query, import, and we also have hybrid as well. In the course, we talk about what's the difference between the 3 options. Likewise, data source settings-wise, you'd want to know what's the meaning of privacy levels, like public, private, organizational, when to use what. And then typically, we also have to be aware of how to clean up our data, add columns, remove columns, and whatnot, manage null values, look at data profiling area, like look at the column quality or data quality and whatnot, and resolve errors. If there are any issues, you'll want to resolve your errors. And overall, as part of the PL-300 course, we provide you with our data sets. You use those data sets to go through different activities and whatnot. So everything is usually there as part of the PL-300 course. So you don't need to have any custom data sets. You can provide us with your data sets ahead of the training in case if you want us to use your data sets. But overall, usually we provide you with all of the necessary data sets. So definitely, if you need any customizations, you can always provide us with your sample data sets ahead of the training so that we can try to accommodate those as well. And then usually you also have to be aware of how to use other options like data transformation or being able to transform columns, use the right data types, group, aggregate data, use pivot, unpivot options, use fact tables, dimension tables, merge, append. So there are lots of options involved here. So obviously, if I start going through every option in detail, it will take us a whole day. And that's where we usually have the 3-day course, PL-300, and we talk about all of the stuff in great detail. But overall, you'll want to know how to prepare your data. And data preparation wise, if I quickly point out a few steps here, so you'll want to know the different data sources. So if I go to Power BI desktop and get data, we have several data sources. We have more. You can look at every possible data source, and you can still choose to add some third-party connectors as well. Like if you have any need to connect to Jira software, you can install additional connectors so that you can connect to more third-party sort of data sources and whatnot. So for now, if let's say maybe just use a simple Excel workbook, connect to it, and quickly specify my Excel workbook, load the data into it. Okay, so my Excel workbook is available in this folder. And I'm going to just paste the URL here and load the data. So usually in the PL-300 course/exam, we talk about all of the stuff in detail, like how do we come up with tables and sheets, when to import tables, when to import sheets. We talk about all of the stuff in detail in the official course that prepares you for the exam. For now, if I, let's say, just import these sheets into my report. So overall, you'll want to know what data sources are available and when to use what data source. And once you have your data available here, next, you'll want to be aware of how to transform your data. After we have connected to your data source, next, you'll want to be aware of how to clean up, shape, or transform your data. And there are lots of options available. So like I briefly went through some of the requirements on one of the slides previously. You'll want to know almost everything, like merge, append, modifying existing values, using the split option and whatnot, pivot, unpivot. So there's lots of stuff involved. So for now, if I briefly just point out that in Power BI, you can choose to open up this software or component of Power BI called Power Query Editor. So Power Query Editor, it's a built-in component in Power BI, which lets us clean up our data, shape our data, transform our data. And overall, we also use the term data wrangling for this concept. So data wrangling means being able to remove unnecessary stuff, look at column quality or data profile sort of stuff, see whether everything is fine or not. Do you need to remove some stuff, clean it up or not? So we have lots of options available here. And for now, if I, let's say, just maybe go to my sheet and just maybe remove one of these columns, it's a very simple transformation. But in the full-blown PL-300 course, we talk about everything in great detail. We talk about every option that's listed here. So for now, I'm just going to remove this simple column like this. And you will notice that we have performed a simple transformation. So there are lots of transformations available here. We can choose to perform these transformations in various ways. So we have lots of tabs available, and each tab has lots of buttons. And all of these transformations, at the end of the day, they all end up updating the behind the scenes sort of query, which is known as Power Query M. So to some extent, you'll want to be aware of this Power Query M, even from the exam perspectives as well. Like in case if you want to copy this query, you want to give it to someone so that they can have the exact same transformations on their site, they should be able to do so. So you can look at the Power Query M language. Mostly in the beginning, you can just focus on the graphical techniques here to transform your data. Like what's the meaning of merge, append, how to remove certain rows and columns, how to add calculate columns, conditional columns from here. So there are lots of options available here. So as part of the data preparation stage, usually you'll want to be aware of this stuff. Different data sources that we can utilize, and then also be able to use the Power Query editor to clean up, transform, shape our data, or it's also usually known as data wrangling as well. And then also, if you hover the mouse over any of these data sources, you'll see we have import as a storage mode. So as far as the exam is concerned, you'll also want to be aware of when to use direct query and also when to use hybrid options as well. So those who have utilized Power BI before, usually you can go to this data model view section, and here you're able to look at these diagrams, and you're able to change the storage mode for these tables in different ways. So something we covered in detail in the full-blown course, but know that you can change the storage mode for these tables if needed, like use direct query or use hybrid and whatnot. So when to use what mode? We should be aware of this concept, and we have it covered in the PL-300 course in detail. So in short, this is the first area, and then exam-wise, towards the end of the session, I'll talk about what's the process and whatnot. But overall, you can expect different questions. So the questions can be in MCQ format. They can be in other formats as well, something I'll point out towards the end of the session today. But overall, this is one of the examples, not the actual exam or sort of question that you will have or the questions that you will have on the exam, but sort of a sample question. So data preparation wise, you could expect something like this. So if you have connected to an Excel file that contains lots of blank rows, then how do you remove those rows? What operation you'll want to perform? So we have different transformations available. So overall, you'll want to know that we should use the remove rows transformation whenever we have to get rid of blank rows or empty rows and whatnot. Okay, so next, we have data modeling area as well. So once we have cleaned up your data, you have gotten rid of all of the unnecessary rows and columns, next you'll want to model your data modeling basically. Now, data modeling means different things to different folks. Data scientists, AI engineers, they use modeling in a different sense. So modeling to them is about using some algorithms, some functions, and various other techniques so that they can identify different patterns and whatnot. Whereas to a data analyst, data modeling means a totally different thing. So data modeling here is more about standardizing the data standardization. As far as data analyst is concerned, data modeling is about standardizing the data. So you'll want to make sure you configure your tables, you configure your facts and dimensions, something I'll briefly touch on in just a bit. The facts and dimensions. It's also usually known as dimensional modeling as well. And then be able to create different tables like date table for the sake of adding time intelligence. Like if you want to later on calculate year-over-year growth in terms of percent, month-over-month growth, you can want to display, let's say, sort of a trend kind of line, trending line, like ups and downs and whatnot. That's where time intelligence can be very, very useful. So be able to create additional calculated tables like date table, create additional columns, and also measures as well, lump sum values or measures basically. And then also know the syntax for doing this stuff. So how do we create measures? How do we create calculate columns? How do we create calculate tables like this date table for time intelligence? So for that, we need to be aware of something called DAX, data analysis expressions. So it's basically a syntax very much like what we have in Excel formulas. It's not the exact same syntax, but it's somewhat similar to it. So you'll want to know the syntax, you'll want to know different functions. So you can create different aggregations like sum, min, max, count, average, standard deviation, variance, mean, median, mode, interquartile, percentile, then calculate, implement time intelligence, use some statistical functions like I mentioned, standard deviation, variance, mean, median, mode, semi-additive measures, and this shorthand syntax or the easy way of creating measures called quick measures. So overall, it's about modeling the data. And modeling wise, there's lots of stuff involved. So you'll end up creating different objects here in your data pane. So if I briefly switch back to my report here, so we have this data pane, and we currently have just out of the box, just the ready-made kind of columns, what we have in our Excel, CSV, and whatnot. So you'll want to be able to create additional columns or measures that do not exist in your original data sets. A very simple example would be that of fiscal year. Fiscal year. So let's say the 1st of April should be, let's say, the next year, not the current year, kind of thing. So if you use financial year or fiscal year sort of concept, that would be a very good example of when you want to use the calculate column concept. So rather than messing up with your original Excel, CSV, SQL Server sort of tables, you can choose to add columns, missing columns, directly to your report itself. So overall, you'll want to create different columns. So overall, you're standardizing the data. You're ensuring everything exists here. So you're creating your additional columns. You're also checking for data types, display format, like for currency, do you want to show the dollar symbol or some other currency symbol? Do you want to use a certain precision and whatnot? So you can utilize lots of techniques here. Then hierarchies. What's the meaning of hierarchies? What's the meaning of folders? How do you use grouping and binning? How do you link tables together so that when you later on have to create reports, they function properly? So data modeling, overall, it can be somewhat dry and boring kind of area, but it's highly useful. It is very essential. Without this, your report will not function at all properly, or it will be a nightmare to manage your reports. So your report performance will be sluggish, or it will be just incorrect, like your data breakdowns will be inaccurate. So that's where we have to create calculate columns. We have to add time intelligence and whatnot to make our reports more functional. So data modeling, almost 25 to 30% of the content is related to data modeling, both in the course as well as in the certification exam as well. And towards the end of the session, I'll talk about what type of questions you can expect. But overall, you'll want to be aware of data modeling. You'll want to be aware of the star schema concept, like how to link the tables together and whatnot. What are dimension tables? What are fact tables? How do you connect these tables together? So as part of the exam, plus as part of the PL-300 course, we covered this stuff. So simply put, before I quickly go through the question here, you'll want to make sure you add more columns. Plus, you also go to this model view. And here you can make sure that the right tables are linked to each other. So make sure you have these relationships established, like one to many, many to one, many to many, one to one, and whatnot. And also, you'll want to be able to create more columns here. Not that I'm going to discuss that in depth here, but you can create new columns and measures so that if any column is missing, like fiscal year, financial year kind of thing, then you should be able to do so. So we covered this in great detail along with the DAX syntax. I usually, when I teach the course, I give lots of tips and tricks. We also usually end up covering this new option called DAX query view as well. This can be very useful when it comes to creating your custom queries and whatnot. And then I usually also end up touching on Copilot as well. That makes life a lot easier when it comes to generating your custom columns, sort of expressions and whatnot. Okay, and then exam-wise, modeling-wise, you can expect different questions. This is just one of the examples. So for example, we want to create a custom column that should be able to display high, medium, and low based on the sales amount. So if the sales amount is less than this or above this, it should be high and whatnot. So you can see different scenarios here. So which DAX function to use for this scenario? So you'll want to be aware of data modeling. You'll want to be aware of some of the commonly used DAX functions. Not all of them, but some of the commonly used functions. So for example, in this case, although you could go with the if function, but we want to go with the most appropriate, the best option. So typically in this case, switch will be the easiest option, which is the most appropriate option to tackle this issue. For more complicated issues, you can go with the if function. Otherwise, for this sort of scenario, you can go with the switch function, which is easier to utilize, that meets the requirements the best in this case. So data modeling, that is another important area. So the combination of data preparation and data modeling, it amounts to almost 50 to 60% of the exam. Plus the course also has the exact same breakdown. And after you have your data prepared, cleaned up, shipped, transformed, and you have added all of the missing columns, measures, you have hierarchies in place and whatnot, you have relationships as well. Now you can focus on data visualization and then analyze it. So here in this section, which also amounts to 25 to 30% of the overall course / exam, select the right visual. So do not select any random visualization, pick the right visual. So visualization-wise, what is the nature of your problem? Do you want to have descriptive analysis? You want to describe the problem. Or prescriptive, you want to prescribe the solution. Or you want to diagnose something. Or you want to forecast something, future forecasting. So based on the problem that you have to tackle, you'll want to be aware of when to use what type of visualization. And we also have some AI-driven visuals as well. So we talk about this stuff in detail in both the PL-300 course, plus it's there in the exam as well. Like when to use Q&A, when to use decomposition tree, key influencers and whatnot. So there are some AI-driven visuals here. They can be very, very useful. So overall, exam-wise, you should expect know-how of all of these knowledge will be tested, like when to use what visual, configuring these visuals, customizing themes, conditional formatting, and then be able to filter out your data in different ways. Like when to use this visual called slicer. So we have this visual called slicer. If I, let's say, randomly add one of these columns, like maybe color here for now. So we have this slicer visual here, and it lets you filter out the data. So when to use this and when to use this filter pane. So there's a difference. So you'll want to be aware of the differences between these visuals, like how to use slicers as well as filters to filter out your data, how to configure filters at the page level, at the report level, at the visual level. So you'll want to be aware of this stuff. And also just a brief know-how of paginated reports. So paginated reports, usually they aren't too many questions based on this. At best, there's just one question or maybe two, but usually not too many questions. So paginated reports, it's basically created by using a different reporting tool altogether. Not that it's the main focus of the course or the exam, but we have something called report builder. Apparently, currently I'm opening it up on my other monitor. But overall, we have something called report builder. So report builder lets you create a paginated report. So what exactly is a paginated report? We have it briefly covered in the course, but overall, it's your traditional kind of report that you want to print on a piece of paper that should span hundreds of thousands of pages if necessary and whatnot. But more importantly, be aware of how to use different visuals, configure bookmarks, tooltips, navigation. So we have lots of options available here. And if I just briefly point out some of this stuff a bit practically, so there's a lot of stuff when it comes to visuals. So if I just briefly pointed out what it looks like, I'm opening up another report on my site. Okay, so if I briefly show you this stuff here. So here, if you look at my report, I have this navigation page. So how do you create these bookmarks so that you can navigate from one page to another page? You can click some button, navigate to another page, and see whatever is there on that page and whatnot. Ignore this warning right now. It's a security setting that I have to configure on Power BI service. But overall, you're able to navigate to different pages from your main page. Otherwise, you can directly jump to a specific page for now. So know when to use what visual, configure drill down, drill through sort of stuff, and also use conditional formatting, something like this. So make sure you have your tables formatted, use the conditional formatting option, display images, URLs, and whatnot. So all of the stuff is related to the data visualization / analysis area of the course/exam. And then how do you optimize your reports for mobile devices? So currently we have a desktop kind of view for this report. But how do you make sure that your report is optimized for mobile devices, small screen size devices? So you're able to configure your mobile view as well. So that's usually also covered in detail as part of the course as well as the exam. But overall, you're able to visualize your data in different ways. So drill through, drill down, customize different aspects, automatic page refresh so that it periodically refreshes your report, using grouping and binning, using AI visuals. So we have a lot of options here, including outliers, using scatter chart, finding anomalies, extraordinary data points, and whatnot. So visualize wise, there are lots of visuals available. Again, you can expect different questions. So here we have an example. So in Power BI Desktop, you want to filter your data. So what technique we should use in this scenario? So we have lots of options, like I briefly pointed out previously. So you'll want to know when to use bookmarks, when to use filtered pane, when to use slicers, when to use drill through. So in this case, we are going to go with the slicers option. So why not something else? So we have all of these features covered in depth in the PL-300 course, plus it's there on the exam as well. And then the last area you'll want to be aware of is deployment of your reports, dashboard creation, and a bit of security. So this only amounts to 15 to 20%. So this is one of the areas where you can choose not to, or actually I wouldn't suggest skipping any area, but definitely know all of these concepts. So what are workspaces? How do you create them? Or how do you manage existing workspaces? How do you create dashboards? How do you distribute your reports? And there are lots of options. So we have, let's say, Power BI app option. You can also utilize, let's say, SharePoint web parts as well to embed your reports and whatnot. You can also add them to your Power Apps as well. So if you have Power Platform, you can add it to your Power Apps-based application as well. So there are different distribution options available. So exam-wise, you just want to be aware of the different options and just be able to prescribe the option when to use what option. You don't have to know in depth how to use all of these options, but know what options are available and when to use what option. Okay, so in short, overall, we have report management slash dashboard creation slash security. Security-wise, you'll want to be aware of two different options. How to configure security at some report slash dashboard level. So report slash dashboard level, and also be able to configure security at the row record level as well. So just be aware of these concepts. So what's the meaning of record level slash row level and item level security? Overall, in Power BI desktop, once you have your report designed, you can publish the report. And then on Power BI service, which is the web-based component or portion of this Power BI platform or Power BI ecosystem. So here, once you have reports deployed here, you're able to create different dashboards and whatnot. So you can see that we have dashboard, we have a bunch of reports and whatnot. So you should be able to create these dashboards where you should be able to add these tiles, organize these tiles in whatever manner you want, share these dashboards with other users in different ways. And also, you should be aware of the row level security concept. So row level security wise, if I just briefly point out that I have this report here, and if I go to my, let's say, semantic model security option, you're able to organize users in the form of groups. And you can say that every group should only be able to see their relevant data. So for example, in my case, if I go to, let's say, this Australia group, I can say I want to test it out. And you will notice that my entire report slash dashboard will only be limited to Australia territory in this case. Likewise, if I go to maybe some other group here, such as Europe, you will see that I only have France, Germany, UK, and that is it. So row level security wise, you should be aware of how to configure this stuff. Typically, it's here on the exam as well. So just be aware of this concept, row level security, that it can be configured so that when you share your reports with your executives, managers, and other departments and whatnot, they should only be able to see their relevant data. So in short, be able to create dashboards from different existing reports, and then also configure row level security, and just be aware of very high level security options available as part of Power BI service. So again, you can expect some question based on this area, but it's typically around 15 to 20% of the overall exam. So for example, here we want to show different data for each user based on the department. So you'll also want to be aware of what's the meaning of data gateway, row level security, data flows, data set refresh. So all of the stuff is covered both in the exam, plus we covered it as part of the PL-300 course as well. So just have a brief overview of these concepts. When to use what option? So here in this case, we are going to go with the row level security option. So what's the meaning of all of this stuff? If you're aware of it, awesome. You're most likely already prepared for the exam. If no, you're most welcome to take that PL-300 course, and we cover all of the stuff in detail. And then the exam process. So it depends on whether you plan to take the exam online or you plan to go to some brick and mortar kind of office or something like that. Most people usually end up taking it online. It's just convenient. You can book it at any time, just schedule it. Usually you cannot find the best date right away. You have to just keep on looking online. So I'll share the link with you. So you'll be able to go to this particular link, or let me see if I can quickly copy the link and send it via chat right away. And definitely you're most welcome to take that PL-300 course, and we cover all of the stuff there. If you open up this link, let's say, you'll notice that it will ask you to sign in, and then you'll be able to schedule your exam. And then usually we also at times offer vouchers and whatnot if you don't want to buy your own sort of exam voucher online. And then once we have signed up, next you can select the date and time when you want it. And if you choose the online option, it will be a proctored exam. Someone will monitor you. You have to sign in well ahead of the exam. Like I would suggest around 25 to 30 minutes ahead of the exam, if it's the first time you're writing the exam. If you're already aware of it, maybe 15 to 20 minutes is okay as well, but still I would suggest signing in at least around 25 to 30 minutes ahead of the exam. And then I usually have to follow all of the requirements, like you need to have a stable internet connection, and then make sure that you have a webcam. And usually you have to take a photograph of your ID, and then you have to submit it. And they also take a photo of you as well. They ask you to show around as well, like show your room. Who else is there in your room? Do you have a monitor next to you that's turned on, like a dual screen setup with something else displayed there and whatnot? Is anyone else there? Are there windows right next to you? So they check lots of things. At times they even ask you to just roll up your sleeves as well, just in case if you have written down the answers or something like that. Okay, so you can expect any kind of examiner, and that person will just ask you to just show around and whatnot. So it depends on the person. And then overall, it's a live exam. No breaks are allowed. And you receive the result immediately after the exam. So the moment you click the last button, you get the result right away. And overall, exam-wise, exam time, the actual exam time just for the questions is around 100 minutes. But on top of it, usually you have around 15 to 20 minutes just to get used to the environment. Like the online software that's provided to you, just to get used to the environment, you're given around 15 to 20 minutes or so. So you can expect around 40 to 60 questions, and usually you have enough time. If you know the answers, you have enough time. If you don't know the answers, the time will just pass away, and you will not be able to answer the questions. So overall, questions-wise, you can expect MCQs, somewhat like I showed you on my side, drag and drop as well. So drag and drop can be there, reorder items in a list. You have to rearrange, like you'll be given some flow, like you need to clean up your data, you need to add some column and whatnot, and you'll be given some jumbled up answers, and you need to correct them by placing them in the right sequence. And case studies. So if they are case studies, not that every exam will always have case studies, usually they are there. But if they are case studies, typically every case study has its separate set of questions. So there are usually different sections. Like if you have MCQs portion, it will be a different section. That will include drag and drop, reorder items and whatnot. And if you have a case study involved as well, at times there's just one, at times there are two, at times there are none. It varies. It varies. So if you have case studies, then you will have a separate section just for the case studies portion. You will have to make sure that you manage your time. So time management wise, one more small note here. So you can actually access the Microsoft Learn portal. So this is a relatively new change that has been introduced, and you can access the Microsoft Learn portal. It's not that you can open up any random website. No, it's not that you can go to ChatGPT and say, hey, give me the answer to these questions. You cannot do that. So you're only allowed to access certain websites, nothing else at all. If you know the answer, you will be able to pass the exam. If you don't know the answer, you could go through the Microsoft Learn portal, but it's an ocean. It's just full of information. So you'll not be able to find the exact answer because the question will not be mentioned as it is on Microsoft Learn. You will want to be aware of micro-learn. You will want to go through the whole micro-learn platform, be aware of how to search what and what not. But even then, it's not always going to be helpful. So the main thing is to make sure you're aware of the questions, or not the questions, but you should have the knowledge of Power BI, know the stuff inside out, do your best. Yes, it's not always possible to ace the exam. At times, around 90% of the content you will be aware of, 10% of the content you will have no clue at all what it means. So just do your best in that case. So overall, make sure you manage the time for the different sections. So if you have, let's say, 2 sections, one with a case study, and the second section might not have case studies at all. So make sure that you manage the time for each section separately. So it's not that you can go through all of these questions as many times as you want. You can keep on reviewing them. Once you have gone through a section, that is it. The section will no longer be available to you for review at all. You will be able to go to the next section, but not come back to the previous section. So as long as you're within the same section, you can mark questions for review. So if you have any doubt related to any question, just mark it for review, and then just keep on answering the remaining questions. And as long as you haven't proceeded to the next section, you can just keep coming back to that question that you have marked for review, and then see if you can think of a better answer for that. If not, just go to the next section, since you have to manage your time accordingly. So overall, you usually do have enough time. So if you have the knowledge, you'll be definitely able to pass the exam. Otherwise, just do your best. As long as you can score around 700 as a score, that is it. No one will know what score you got. Just tell them you have passed the exam. That is it. Okay. So in short, there are a bunch of other resources. I'll quickly share some more links with you. And definitely, you can take that PL-300 course with us. We are offering it next month. And there we talk about this whole course inside out. So here, I'll also share this sample assessment link as well. So here we have a free assessment. So you can go through this free assessment. This is somewhat like what you will have on the exam. Not the exact same questions, but the experience that's somewhat similar. And actually, another very useful tip is that if you want to find out what type of website or what kind of exam environment will be there, you can go to the sandbox. This is the sandbox experience for the exam. So here, this is very much like what you will have in the exam as well. If you go through the sandbox, you'll be able to see what UI you can expect. And you will notice that we have MCQ sort of questions here. You can mark questions for review and whatnot. And make sure that you go through this particular sandbox so you can get used to this environment and whatnot. Okay, so in short, these are some tips that I've shared with you. And definitely, if you have any interest in that PL-300 course, please feel free to get in touch with us. And there we talk about this Power BI in depth. So even if it's not for the exam, you just want to learn Power BI, be functional, relax, not worry about the exam, but just be able to create reports and dashboards and whatnot. Even then, that PL-300 course is very, very useful. Okay, so any questions regarding this quick overview of Power BI ecosystem?
Yeah, I see some good questions in the chat, and also some very kind participants have also been helping to answer as well. So if you can see the chat, Fahim, otherwise I can read it to you. Okay. And then there's one question in the Q&A as well. Someone who actually took the exam and has some comments and a question.
So the exam sandbox, it's just for getting used to the experience, like what type of UI software you will have as part of the exam. Like I briefly showed you that we can have MCQs and whatnot. So this is basically the exam-like kind of software, the software that you will be given basically. In terms of, let's say, taking a driving test, it's like getting used to the routes, what route the driver instructor or let's say the examiner might end up taking or something like that. So basically, it's just the software experience that you will want to be aware of before you take the exam.
Yep, and Fahim, I'm just dropping your links in the chat. I do this all the time, but I think you just had it go to panelists, so I was the only one that saw it. So I just switched it to everyone, so I think everyone should see it now. I do that all the time too.
Thank you, appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any further questions? And I'll probably share just one more link, so in case if anyone wants to do a bit of rating and whatnot, you can go through this link.
There you go.
There's a question regarding Power BI, like the date format is different. So definitely, so as part of data modeling, you'll want to format your data. So you have to make sure that after importing your data into your Power BI report, you'll want to do a bit of data formatting. So in the data modeling portion of the course, we talk about how we can configure data formats. In fact, you can do it even in Power Query Editor as well. So do it either in the Power Query Editor portion of your report or do it in your data modeling portions. But you have to configure the display format or the date format. Okay. So yes, seems like we have gone through the questions. Okay. So thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be here with you for this particular webinar.
Yeah, and thank you, Fahim, for doing this so much. I know you're super busy. You probably have a course to teach this afternoon. And we also thank you all for coming because I know you're also busy. And I'm sorry, I saw that maybe I don't know if everyone is having a problem clicking the links that are in the webinar chat, but we'll be sending you a copy of this presentation. You'll get the video for it. So when we send you the email, I can just gather all these links and we'll email them to you as well, just in case you're having any issue getting into them. And of course, that December 9th to 11th course will be discounted 60%. And I can give you that link once again, but don't worry if you can't get to it, it will be in the email. And that course is a 3-day course. So this is really just a snapshot, and the actual course also has lots of hands-on activities, tons of practice, an instructor there to answer all the questions live with plenty of time. So in this hour, it's a little bit short, it's a little bit difficult to get to everyone, but you're welcome. Thank you. It's so good to see everybody, some new faces and some people that I recognized. By the way, we're having another webinar tomorrow too, and it's developing your first application in generative AI. So you can check that too. It's on all of our sites. But okay, I guess with that, doesn't look like any other questions are coming in. So have a wonderful day, everybody. And we hope to see you in the next webinar. Thank you, Fahim. Everyone have a wonderful day. Bye now.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.